Hello, my friends, and welcome to the April series, Taking the Leap. Taking the Leap series this month in April, I will have a special high vibe guest on each week to just go over what it takes to live a life full of passion and fulfillment in creating a life you love. So today, my special guest is Dave Kestenbaum, my fellow co-leader of the Pura Vida experience that we are ready to launch for the third time in December this year. So let me just invite him in here. Hey.
I do. It wasn't on the setup on my laptop, but I'm able to join via my phone.
All right. Excellent. I love the chakra flag behind you. It's like, oh.
Set up on my laptop. So, can you hear me?
I can't hear you. You look great too. Can you hear me?
Oh, wonderful.
So let me just introduce you to my friend Dave. We've known each other. We were talking the other day for probably a little of around 10 years or more, and we've met through mutual friends who also high vibe friends, and our circles just sort of connected. And eventually, through different events and outings and things like that, Dave approached me in, I believe, 2016-ish. I'm not quite sure. The teens always get confusing when looking at time, but with maybe putting together a retreat one day. And we are putting on for the third time annually, our Pura Vida experience this December 26th. We have an early bird going till May 1. If you're interested, all that information is up on malaikayoga.com/retreats. If you're looking for more information on that, we'd love to have you. It's quite an adventure. But yes, so that's one reason I have Dave on this call today as a speaker, but also because this April series is really about what it takes to take the leap. And Dave is a very inspiring friend who has done an incredible amount of work in his life and career with sustainability education and consulting. So he'll give us a little bit of a spiel on that and take us through his experience along his path. And basically, right now, Dave, I would just love to hear you take us back. I want you to kind of go back to the origin of like all of these building blocks and steps to where you are now, living this life full of passion and fulfillment around what it is that you do and give and share with the world.
It's a work in progress always, but I will do my best to time travel back to a few points in life that I think were important that helped me like make a shift or, building off of the theme of these sessions, make the leap.
Yeah.
And it was at the time and still is, feels like I'm making leaps every day. So going back to sort of the origins of how it built sort of like my life around a lot of what I do, or I guess, how I sort of created my career trajectory. Easily go back to childhood, and I come from an immigrant family, not first generation, but I'm third generation, but we were very heavily influenced by the immigrant story here in the U.S. And my grandfather, when I was growing up, a big thing he used to like to say is that education and money were great equalizers. And he said it in such a way where he was really elevating the idea of education as an equalizer and something to be proud of and seek out, and almost a better path to finding equality, something a little more moral and just about that path. And then I dovetail, you fast forward a little bit, and a big point of pride in my family was, my father and his sister went to an Ivy League school. They both went to Cornell, and then my older brother and sister were on the trajectory and actually ended up there as well. And during my childhood, where folks were talking a lot about, the importance of education, it was also a fairly liberal household, and we held on the pedestal ideas of social justice and social good, while also balancing that out with ideas of you need some economic stability as well. So you're not struggling to survive, and you're creating protection for friends and family and people around you. Um, and as I was navigating those big
Yeah.
questions as a kid, felt like a lot of pressure. I was also enthralled, like thinking about what are my passions and what I'm interested in, and I was always excited about travel. And travel wasn't something my family did uh,
Hmm.
too much. Visit friends and relatives, maybe here and there, take a road trip. But
Yeah.
uh, you
Same.
know, we jumped in a plane once when I was 2 years old, and then never took a plane vacation again. As a family.
Yeah.
Um, but that was something I watched other people in the neighborhood do and other relatives do, and I was enthralled by it.
Yeah.
And my father, sort of in his quest to help direct us towards getting a good education, to have a good career, and also explore our own areas of special interest, he was celebrating what he knew was this school, Cornell, which had this hotel school. And he said, well, you know what? People like to travel often, like go into the hotel business, and they can make very good money, and you can get paid to go around the world and meet different people. And so what wound up happening is I really started thinking at a very young age, who knows how healthy it is or it was or not, but I had my eye on this idea of combining business and travel together in third grade, and maybe go building, being a developer, and aspirational goals and working in hotels. And fast forward, I decided to buck the family trend a little bit, and I ended up in school at the University of Delaware at a hotel program, and really was lucky enough to start landing some fun jobs. And I worked for Disney and Hilton and Sheridan, and got into these management training programs. And I was told I was usually like the youngest person in these programs as I was going through them. And I started to make enough money to support myself. By the end of my freshman year, beginning of sophomore year, if I wanted to lean into that direction.
Yeah.
And I quickly realized at the end of the day, I wasn't so happy. And got these jobs that I thought probably I'd be able to have to wait for another few years until I graduated to get. And I reflected and I looked around at sort of adults that were in my circle in life, and they were unhappy in the paths that they were on. And I started to think to myself, I probably want a bigger stressor in my life, rather some uh, doctor, lawyer, dentist, professional from, you know, I'll stereotype, like suburban New York, or, rural Connecticut, had a mint on their pillow at the end of the day. And that just didn't align with, I think, the values in my household growing up, and some didn't align with the values, I think, in my heart. And so I started to think about what was next. And that was really a tipping point for when I made a switch.
Yeah. Wow. And then that's when you kind of felt like the okay, especially with what you're just talking about with the outside influence too. Like these people aren't happy. Like, and then you're looking at carving out your own path and career and like what you want to do, and happiness and your values were really important, and taking that good look at that and thinking, there's all these different ways we could do things. And then you made this leap around this time. So this is sophomore, junior year of college,
Yep, I
kind of
would
going,
say,
yeah,
yeah, end of freshman, yeah, sophomore year. Let's say it really started to sink in sophomore year. And I was
uh-huh.
halfway through my junior year, I got fairly committed towards this trajectory.
Hmm. And then what was it uncomfortable? Were you like, nope, this is what I'm gonna do, and I'm just gonna put all like what was that feeling like when you eventually had that moment? Do you remember the exact moment? Can you take us through that? Or is it a series of moments, or was there one poignant thing where you were like, oh my gosh, that switch is on and that's it? And what was that like?
I think it was a gradual process. And
Hmm.
as I look back, this was, to how these pieces evolved. If I start to outline the scaffolding, that supported these transitions, it was, I looked around and thought, I'm getting this college degree. There was all this pressure on what that was supposed to be and what it was supposed to mean. I started to make progress in the direction. I wasn't particularly feeling fulfilled or completely happy, yet I was experiencing certain levels of success, which were gratifying in a lot of ways. I don't
Yeah.
think I hit like this huge tipping point where like the world is for my taking in that success, but it felt like the path was clear if I wanted to go down it.
Ooh.
But it didn't feel like the right path. And so I started to look around and think, what do I like to do for fun? Is there something professionally that can fill me up? And, you know, where I'm combining my work and play together and my passions and play
Mhm.
together. And at the time, I reflected thinking, what do I like to do for fun? And a little bit of it was music, and a little bit was being outdoors and mountain biking. And I thought
Yeah.
outdoor recreation and hiking. And I want to go see all the national parks in the country and, you know, spend time in the woods. And so um, I got a job at an outdoor gear shop uh,
Nice.
of all places. And that helped expose me to that world a little bit. I thought about switching a major in college, but I reflected and thought, I bet this passion will last for 6 months and I don't want to close myself off. Maybe I'll just continue what I'm doing. And I started to get out in the woods. And then I started to expand the classes I would take at college to maybe like just put my toe in the water. And I started to take classes um, in marine biology. I signed up one summer for an independent study with an anthropology professor to do research on the pit house to Pueblo transition for communities in the desert Southwest. I took a philosophy of world religions class. I took a class on uh, environmental philosophy. And along the way, I really started to, you know, I got drawn into ideas of, you know, where different religions align in their values. And something that stood out to me in college, and I remember writing an essay on it, and I bet I could dig into it. And if I look back at it, I'd start laughing at these reflections. But I thought, oh, you know, there's some sort of the golden rule that exists in almost every religion. And, you know, maybe that's a common place where you can get in, you know, get into. I started to, you know, or bring people together, or I can sort of figure out what my path is. I started to, I got enthralled with the idea of MAGA, which not, you know, MAGA in the sense of, you know,
Yeah.
political movement here in the US, but, you know,
Yeah.
the cessation of Dooku in the field of Buddhism, right? Which is, some people would describe as the middle path and grappling with that and then learning about reading authors like Vandava Shiva or Wangari Maathai and environmental values from a different perspective,
Mhm.
and then coming back to environmental ethics, how they form in different parts of the world, and even relations of those things, and then got exposed into the policy field. I never really let go of that business piece. And there's a fear in me still of totally letting go. And I personally, it's something I grapple with all the time. If I don't know if that's a good thing or it's something that holds me back. But I got exposed to this concept of sustainable development, which was young and emerging. And it seemed like it was a way to bring those values out to the world, looking at justice, equity, inclusion, and holistic thinking of balancing nature, commerce, culture together. Where
Yeah.
a lot of cultures have done that forever, but based on our Eurocentric views, like often those items have been compartmentalized. And so I got, yeah, this idea of sustainable development was a place where I was like, maybe that's the intersection where I could bring it all together and
Yeah.
execute this in the real world. And it brought me out of this place of conservation is about whether or not I clean up my campsite when I leave. And I got excited about leaving the trace ethics for a bit, but it really brought me out to um, conservation is about people. And if I want to
Mhm.
do this work, it's about people. And
Wow.
for me, that was this huge, huge shift and click. And I gotta say, I share that with my family, and they, I think, had these moments of, oh my God, we totally thought you were on the right track a little bit, and now we're just nervous as hell for you.
Yeah.
And me, I was nervous as hell for myself, and just has a lot of anxiety about it. And but thought there was this, there's a part of me and like learning about ethics and moral imperative, and thought I have a certain amount of privilege to have these choices,
Yeah.
and so let me try to lean in the direction where my energies hopefully will be as positive as possible. And
Yeah. For the greater good.
hopefully intention and an impact haven't always lined up, but I learn a lot, learn every day, and just keep on doing it. And I know this approach is, yeah, it's allowed me to go deep internally, and
Yeah.
it's allowed me and explore internally, but it's allowed me to meet people from different corners of our state of Vermont, and different
Mhm.
corners of society, our country, and around the world. And it's been interesting.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love it. I love how you just took us through like all of these building blocks, all of these steps, and then eventually leading to this one kind of funneled place that's not like picking this thing and going in that direction. It was really, it really took you that introspection of just like, what do I love? How can I combine these things so there's this union? And let's say the word alignment. I love that word alignment, but the alignment got more and more into the stream. I guess I could say that too, right? It seems like the more you were talking, that river started to flow a little easier. And then how much bigger your box of thinking just expanded and expanded and expanded. And having that look in at like privilege and what you do have and what you did have and at the time and how to use that for good and make those worlds meet in a way that felt good, because if it didn't feel good you weren't really going to do it. Like back to the original part of your story and your origin with just your family path and expectations, etc., and how you were doing that just in the way that you really took a bigger look at your well-being and like what you wanted to spend your time doing, having fun, meeting with different cultures and people, and the sustainability of the planet and the people, that being the common source. And I love that you said that, because um, I also had a moment in my life where it was like, what do I love? And I was asked this question during a really difficult time when I was around 24, and I just went people. It just came out, and I was like, I just love people. And somebody else was like, I hate people. And I'm like, well, and I was like, I love people. And like, whatever I do, I want to make sure that I'm working with people and hearing stories and collaborating and integrating and just, it's just neat that you said that, because maybe that's the alignment with our work together too, is like, we want to bring people on the Pura Vida experience, for example, just to get into that for a moment of just, we want to bring people on an epic journey through a place that's really preserved and just incredibly well too, and how Costa Rica and specifically takes care of their rainforests and has particular protocols with how you do things, how you can get to certain places. And you can talk more about that obviously in your words, but I think that's what's a neat connection between us both and our work together on that retreat, is just in that experience of just bringing people together to meet other people and culture, and in the sustainability realm of really getting that personal look at the places that we visit, how they're run, how they survive, the ethics around everything too. So I'll let you speak a little bit more about that if you want.
Sure. I have to say, it's funny. When we first, yeah, we have all these mutual friends, and something, like we met in passing really quickly, and then I thought, in hearing from some of our mutual friends what you were doing, and then what I was doing, I thought, I part of my work is I teach at the University of Vermont, and I've been teaching travel study courses for around 20 years there. And um, I when I and I also was doing a lot of community-based tours and development work, since the late 90s, mostly with cooperative communities and people working right next to protected areas where all of a sudden, like maybe they were displaced from actually the creation of a national park, and benefits were going to someone else, but in order to give them a vested interest in conservation, and make them a part of the equation, and you shift power with dynamic, the power over versus to a power with dynamic, you know, working to help these organizations, these communities create small businesses, or
Yep.
help gold miners and hunters or poachers be trained to be guides.
Yeah.
You know, it was this thought of, you know, how do you weave these things together into one experience? And so, when we'd have these educational programs, and I'd watch yoga groups go down or other tourist groups go down, I kept thinking, this might really complement a yoga experience. I didn't think we'd be chatting
Yeah.
about this today at all. I thought we'd dig into some other stuff when you invited me. But when we were, I just thought these two pieces might be complemented, and maybe, you know, it could round out an experience for maybe not my student groups. Well, that would be fun too.
Yeah.
But other types of groups that were brought down to have more of that, not only connect with nature and local communities, and, you know, hopefully you connect with yourself a little along the way, but intentionally give you the opportunity, experience where there's the connect with yourself bit built in through yoga. And so when I heard about what you do, I thought that might be like a fun piece of the puzzle. Maybe we combine that community development stuff, or
Yeah.
nature tourism, or get out and hike and get muddy and then go get pampered, right, along the way. Do
Yep.
everything in a non-voyeuristic fashion with local friends and partners that trust have been built up over 20 years.
Yeah.
So we were going through this trip one day, and I would say halfway through our first experience, you looked at me and you said, you know, we're not doing yoga for 8 hours a day, like, you know, in the traditional sense, but every step of this trip has been yoga. We
Yeah.
integrate like that. There was something of the essence of that. And to me, those were pretty powerful words. And, you know, I think I might have jumped off topic a little bit, but, you know,
No.
yeah.
It's true too, because you know it's not your typical like yoga retreat. It's like this immersive experience with yoga weaved in and meditation. But really it's like, yeah, we're practicing, but like we're immersed. It is this nice complement, and it is a different flavor to an experience that I think is what sets our trip apart from lots of other things I've seen. And it's such a joy to bring people there, and to go back. It never gets old. Like, you know, like, yay, we're gonna go here again. And just, you know, taking the moment in the rainforest before we go on the hike to really talk about like the sacred connection with nature, and before we walk in there, and like the energy of it all, right? So I think one year we, you know, I led a meditation right before we walked into the rainforest for our tour, and it was like, whoa, very vivid. And you know, you got to think about like where you are, and you're in the middle of this rainforest, and there's you're encroaching, you're passing through, you're visiting, and how what that feels like, and how we should be in that sort of situation. But it's, yeah, it's quite magical. And yeah, I think that's really beautiful how you, and I was also at the time too, Dave, like really seeking to do something like this. And that's what's interesting too about the power of just like magnets, you know, like you put it out there, and then like it's there, and your vibe is always speaking, and then, you know, here we go, we nail it all down. It didn't quite take off the ground right away, right? But then when the timing was right, it did take off, and it works. So yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure working with you, and leading people through that experience together for sure. And it's really impressive um, your trajectory and path over the years, and how you stayed steady. You know, it's hard when you take the leap to really do something that is in alignment with what you love and how you have fun and what you really are passionate about, and to stay that course. It's very easy, as you know, we both know, that to be like, oh, maybe this is getting hard. And you know, you stuck with that, and now it's like this alignment of everything that you've worked so hard at, and it's with your passion.
Thanks. I'll share that. Uh, I mean, you know this, when we've had long hikes, you know, or we sit down for a yoga session, and most of my friends know this. When everything hits, I feel like the luckiest person in the world to be able to do what I do and somehow figure out a way to make a living with it. You know, usually I can afford to have takeout whenever I want, which is such a beautiful thrill. However, I probably won't retire tomorrow, right? So
Yeah.
somehow maybe hitting that middle path spot, not that's not the way it's meant, but a comfortable spot. However, there are years where it's exhausting and not easy, and how do you do this?
Hmm.
And there are years where it's like, hey, this has come together. It's really
Yeah.
clicked. So it's a little bit of the iceberg model. And
Yep.
so if we're talking
Totally.
about taking a leap, you know, sometimes you might fall and then you just got to get back up
Yeah. And
or
sometimes,
not. You know?
yeah, sometimes things just that we are like really passionate about and have so much energy behind, like just don't take off. And that's okay. We just stay steady on the course. And I think the consistency with all of that is what makes it overall just the lighting of the soul in the way. And then you share that with others. And then who knows, what can come from that with someone else's path, with sharing your passion. So, whew, this was great. Do you have any final like little words of or gems for anyone who's maybe in a place where they're considering a leap of I really love, for example, gardening, but I have to have this full-time job and I'm not sure if I could do that and what would that look like? What do you recommend someone starts to do? Do you have anything that comes to mind when someone's just about to like think about making a leap, let's say?
Oh, wow. I've been someone who every time I lean against my intuition, it's wrong. Or like I trip up and it's not so graceful and sloppy. But, I've also, been in the tough spots of like, you know what? You know, can you afford to take another risk at this point in time? So
Yeah.
I think oftentimes it's dependent on a situation.
Hmm.
Uh, Someone once said they're the simplest words, but they're powerful. The answer to what if is so what?
Yeah.
Uh, and you don't know.
Hmm.
I've always been one of these people. If your situation isn't great, or you're not happy with it, look for ways to change it. I think you
Yeah.
owe it to yourself, and you might get it right, you might get it wrong, but why be stuck in that cycle?
Yeah.
Um, so, I mean, but the first step is probably breathe. And maybe you just are one of those people you could take this leap, but maybe you need to set up some of the scaffolding or security blankets
Yeah.
uh, or little steps.
Yeah.
Uh, but don't be afraid to gain momentum and give it a shot. And at some point in time, take that risk because you could probably, if you've gotten that as far as you've gotten, you probably have a chance to, you know,
Yeah. I love that.
figure your next phases out as well.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, because it's like little steps, but like staying the course in any way that you can, whether you have to. I mean, at first with teaching yoga, I had like 5 or 6 or to 8 part-time jobs because it was like I couldn't just teach yoga, right? And then I started to, that took a long time, and it still is an interesting thing, of course. I mean, it's sometimes it has gotten a little easier, but some years, and especially with COVID, it's like it's been something you just have to kind of constantly like shift and adapt to, but also just keep chipping at and like keep taking those steps. Yeah, so I love that and give it a shot. That's great advice, Dave. Like just to give it a shot because why not? Because like yeah, you might fall, but at least you tried, and then you doesn't mean you have to give it up completely if you fall. It's like, all right, that didn't work, but maybe I'm going to like get back into another step further down the road whenever that feels right. And so again, back to intuition and what has led you to where you are now and how that hasn't been easy, but you stayed the course and you went like this a bunch, but also you combined and you took a real good look at who you are, what you love, your passions, kind of listed those things out. However you did that, you wrote them down, you made a vision board. Maybe you didn't do any of that, but it's like, to see it and go, huh, right. Like that's who I am. That's what I love. These are the hours where I like to do this and that. And I'm a morning person or an evening person. And like, really, those things matter. Like, who are we? Really taking a look at that. Who am I? And like, what do I love? Really small things, the foods you like, the people you enjoy talking to, the books you like to read, just paying attention to those things are all funneling you into the thing that really is always right there. But we, you know, have to swim or leap. and not to be afraid to do it. I love that. Because we're gonna be afraid anyway, so just do it afraid,
Yep.
right? Ah! Well, if anyone is looking to join us in December to January. It's December 26th to January 2nd in the Pura Vida experience. You'll be hearing a lot from Dave on our trip, as well as yoga and meditation and yoga nidra from myself mixed into this itinerary. All of that information is at malaikayoga.com/retreats. And we have an early bird going on until May 1st. And if you have any questions, we're here for you, and we're happy to have a chat with you about that. And Dave, thank you so much for your time. And just, you're the best.
I'll add one more thing.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for a Vita retreat. We stay in a chocolate farm for half the trip.
Mm-hmm.
Just all I know is I'm just waiting to get back down there.
Yeah, staying there. We do stay at a chocolate farm.
Hey, love you. Thank you. And chat soon.
All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you so
Bye.
much for tuning in.